My background is Sydney University, did a botany degree, and then I worked for CSIRO in Canberra for about 6 years and came to Brisbane with my husband, who worked with a computer company. But after, he died, and then a long time later, there was an ad for a survey of Boondall, Tinchy and Deegan wetlands to do a biodiversity survey of the wetlands. And so they were wanting volunteers to help with this biodiversity survey, and I thought, well, I can do that. So I joined that, and I belonged to the plant group. So they had a plant group, an insect group, a frog group, a bird group, and we all had to go and survey particular areas as to what was there and record it. And the plant group, we did 17 transects in Boondall and Tinchy Tamba and recorded all the plants we'd found. And this was before they had really good identification things of plants. So we had to do all sorts of things to try and find out what plants we were. And apparently nowadays transects, you don't have to identify everything along the line. In those days you did. Anyway, we did that, and then we kept together as a plant group, and we'd just go walking and identifying plants and taking pictures. And so that was back in 1999. Oh dear. And I just kept going, and one day I thought, well, why not volunteer at Boondall? The first time I tried to volunteer at Boondall, they said, no, we've got enough volunteers, we don't need you. And I thought, okay. So I came back a bit later, and I belonged to a weeding group, first of all, to help doing the weeding in the Boondall. And from then on, I was a volunteer, so they had to accept me then. So I just kept going. And they used me because I can identify the plants for them. So my knowledge was very useful, and I can also develop all sorts of posters and informative things. We did a track booklet. So we provided all the information that you might see on that track. And so from then on, I'm an official volunteer. I'm a volunteer who keeps doing things in a different way from everybody else. But anyway, I enjoy it. And so that's my volunteering history. But everybody there is really good to me. They like having me around, so I keep going. We had a function at Nudgee Beach, and I was part of that. And one of the things I had to do was a history of Boondall Wetlands. Now, Boondall Wetlands, all right, the Brisbane City Council acquired the wetlands back in, I can't remember the date now. But anyway, they paid the Nudgee orphanage. They bought the land off the Nudgee orphanage, who'd been running cows on it. They had a Nudgee orphanage ran all their cows in Boondall Wetlands, so it was a farming area. And the council bought it off Nudgee orphanage because it was absolutely covered in groundsel. And the groundsel's a terrible weed. It grows to a considerable height, and you can't run your cows anymore, and it costs a lot of money to get rid of the groundsel. So the council bought it off Nudgee and got rid of the groundsel, and then investigated, how to protect it. So they then joined up with the Ramsar. But that Ramsar is Moreton Bay rather than just Boondall. It's the Moreton Bay wetlands. So they became involved with all sorts of things and built the Environment Centre. That's 1996 or something like that, the Environment Centre was built. Nudgee Orphanage, Boondall runs from Cabbage Tree Creek to what is Schultz's Canal. It isn't Schultz's Canal, it is the floodway, Kedron Brook floodway, which comes out past the airport. And so that it crosses a huge area. It's one of the biggest natural areas in the whole of Brisbane City Council. And I think it's become quite a major problem for them because it's very expensive to maintain this sort of area. They maintain it through what they call asset services. And asset services have people there who have expertise in various areas and who weed expertise and things like that. So they do a lot of weed control in there, and they also do a lot of maintenance and maintaining their assets like they have a cycle path that goes through to make sure people use it. And the cycle path goes from Boondall Wetlands Environment Centre to Nudgee Beach. And so that's very heavily used. You get a lot of people going through on the bicycle path. But the other thing they do is maintain the volunteers and keep a volunteer coordinator position. And the volunteers then take walks, because there is a walk, a structured walk through there. It's a circular track that goes from the centre around through a variety of ecosystems and back to the centre. So you can get to see all the different ecosystems as you walk through. You also get to see a bird hide. Very few wader birds, though. The wader birds are at Nudgee Beach. But the council actually uses, the council has a levy, a bush levy. They use part of that bush levy to maintain. So it was saved straight off by the council just buying it, first off, and then it's maintained by the bush levy. So the council, I think they really try, but they don't know what they're doing half the time, sorry. They have a difficulty in understanding the consequences of some of the things that they do, like this current thing that I was telling you about, the mosquito control business. Whereas before they actually had no impact on the area, or very little physical impact on the area. Now they're just trashing it. Like they're like dune buggies, but that's not what they're called. The four-wheel drive things. And just driving those all over the wetlands is not good for the wetlands. But they have been good in weed control. They've been really good on that. And trying to do something to encourage people to use it, and now upgrading the centre. So, there's lots of good things that they try to do, but they have little understanding of the ecology of the place. I think that's what worries me more than anything else. After they bought it, one Lord Mayor wanted to make it into a village for the bid for the Olympic Games. And so they were going to build a huge estate and canals and sporting complexes and yachting complexes, all to try and get into one of the Olympic Games bids. And there was a huge outcry over that, and the community really managed to stop that. The Bramble Bay is the water area that impinges on Boondall. So it was that. So that it's a sort of a bay bit there, and that was called Bramble Bay. So they were the Bramble Bay Consultative Committee, and they really stopped the development of Boondall into a Olympic village. They really totally stopped it. Magnificent effort that was. It currently is very difficult to get volunteers. I think partly Boondall suffers because it doesn't have a natural catchment of people. It's cut off from the local people. A lot of these other areas are slap bang in the middle of the suburbs, but Boondall isn't. It's cut off from it. You get a lot of people who say, oh yes, I love Boondall, I go there a lot, but then they don't want to come and work there. It's just too cut off from them. I think that's the problem. And so volunteering does depend on a connection with the area. So you feel a connection to it, and so you go out and want to help. And I think that's what's lacking in Boondall. There doesn't seem to be a connection. I don't know how we're going to do that. Maybe the new centre will get it. I'm hoping with the new centre that they have an area set aside for the volunteers where they can do lots of work, like citizen science sort of things, and really get activities that are volunteer-driven activities, not staff-driven activities. But to get the enthusiasm going is really difficult at the moment. And I think that's a problem all around the world at the moment, is just getting people involved in these sorts of things. I just don't know what you do. It is making that link. I had that link because I walked over the whole place and knew it pretty well. And the others come along and I don't know what they're looking for. I think that's what we have to find out. What do you want out of this? And tap into what they want. But that's, the volunteering is not easy.